Hey Daniel. So in my previous video about traveling to Washington DC, I did kind of a cliffhanger where I was going to the Smithsonian of the Air and Space Museum. Now one of the movies that they were showing there was Living in the Age of Airplanes. I give this movie a huge thumbs up. That essentially we as man have been traveling 3 miles per hour since this whole span of mankind. Until recently when the automobile and the train were created. And then it shows in 1907 how the Orville and Wilbur Wright created the first airplane. I'll talk more about that in just a second. But really this is just a spectacular video to show you how technology has improved just in these past 2 centuries in such a big way. So I'm going to take you through a brief history of how the airplane came to pass. Now, in this past 200 centuries, this isn't the first time that we've dreamt of flying. People have been dreaming about flying for such a long time. There are Greek myths everywhere showing that people wanted to fly, such as Pegasus, the flying horse, or Icarus, where he escaped out of jail using wax and feathers, so he flew to the sun and everything melted and it was bad for him. Now, there are different sources that say exactly when the kite was created, but China created the kite around 400 to 1000 BC, and that was when we kind of started to get the grasp of, okay, we need to bend the air in such a way to fly into the air, and it really brought some ideas when people started first developing the gliders. But what people wanted to create was a heavier than air aircraft. Now this means that there's no hot air balloon carrying things into the sky, there's no Zeppelin or anything like that. People wanted an aircraft that would fly into the sky just by manpower. Now the development of the kite, which was around 400 to 1000 BC, really struck some ideas inside of Leonardo da Vinci and other people that created concepts of gliders and whatnot. One of Leonardo da Vinci's aircrafts was called the Ornithoper, and it really is amazing that that design that Leonardo da Vinci made works. People have recreated the Ornithoper and it's now a basis for the helicopter. And then people moved right into lighter than air aircraft. Now essentially this would mean a hot air balloon where the air is rising from beneath. That makes the aircraft rise, but people really didn't want that to be the case. People wanted to look into the future of how to create an aircraft that could be heavier than air. So then people started creating gliders. Now one of the most successful gliders was Lilienthal's glider. It flew over 2,500 flights, but due to some sudden strong wind, because everything was reliant upon the wind with the glider, it killed Lilienthal. But people kept looking to the future. They knew they had to create something that could be self-powered, and they wanted to fly for hours. So this is where it inspired Langley. So he took Lilienthal's design for a glider, he improved upon it, and he added a self-powered machine on it. So he would add propellers to it. Now Langley received a $50,000 grant to build his flying machine, but it ultimately fell to the ground. But his contributions to the aircraft were not in vain. He, like I said before, was the first one to put a self-powered engine, or air propellers, onto a glider. Then this is where we move into the Wright brothers. Now while the Wright brothers were not the first one to create a self-powered machine that could fly through the air, and this is debatable because it is a very complicated thing and who created the first aircraft, because there were so many people working on creating aircrafts, such as Santos Dumont and also Whitehead and many more people throughout the world. But one of the things that was unique about the Wright brothers airplane was that they kept improving it, and they also thought of the idea of wing warping. So essentially they would take the wings and warp it so that they could turn from left to right rather than having to lean the whole airplane. And this created a much more stable aircraft, and they, after improving their aircraft for a long time, in October 5th, 1905, they piloted the Flyer 3 for 39 minutes and about 24 miles. They basically flew until it ran out of gas. And then we take this aircraft design from Orville and Wilbur Wright and everyone else around the world, and we keep improving it. So then we move right into World War I and World War II, where everyone started creating better and better airplanes off of their designs and many other people's designs. And this just improves and improves the airplane until nowadays we created the Boeing 747 and other huge airplanes like that. Now in Living with the Age of Airplanes, like I mentioned before, it essentially highlights that we live in such an amazing time. So next time you're sitting on a flight, just think of how amazing everything is rather than the kid that's probably kicking you in the back of the seat. Recognize how much technology has improved from just a century ago. We live in a day of age where we can order something from Brazil and it can be here within 2-3 days. Heck, we can order things from all the way across the world. So yeah, just focus on the good and enjoy this time because it's amazing. And Daniel, I will see you on Wednesday. Check out that popcorn truck.